Imagine you're just doing your regular job, digging in someone else's field, and you accidentally hit buried treasure. We're talking life-changing, generational wealth level treasure. What do you do? If your answer is rebury it, buy the field, then claim the treasure, congratulations, you understand this parable. If your answer is, that sounds legally questionable, well, let's talk about it. Let me set this up. Jesus is teaching about the kingdom of heaven, and he tells this incredibly short parable. Like it's one verse, but packed into that one verse is a story so wild, so radical, and honestly so morally ambiguous that people have been debating it for 2,000 years. Here's what Jesus says. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. That's it. That's the whole parable. 28 words in English. Boom. Done. But there's so much happening here. Let's unpack it.
So, there's this guy. We don't know his name. We don't know much about him. But based on the context, he's probably a hired laborer, someone who works other people's fields for wages. Not wealthy, not a landowner, just a regular working guy trying to make a living. He's digging, plowing maybe, or doing some kind of field work in someone else's property. This isn't his field. He's just the help. And then his shovel hits something. Not a rock, not a root. Something different. He digs a little more, and suddenly he realizes this is treasure. Now, we don't know exactly what kind of treasure. Could be gold coins, could be jewelry, could be precious metals, could be a chest full of valuables. The Bible doesn't specify. But here's what we do know. It's valuable enough that this guy is about to do something absolutely insane. In that time and culture, people would hide valuables in the ground. There were no banks, no safety deposit boxes, no FDIC insurance. If you had something valuable and you wanted to keep it safe, you buried it. Problem is, sometimes the person who buried it died, or forgot where they buried it, or got exiled or killed before they could retrieve it, and their treasure just stayed there, in the ground, waiting. And this guy just found it. The emotional response. Jesus says that when the man found the treasure, he was filled with joy. Not he was pleased. Not he was satisfied. Joy. The kind of joy that overtakes you, that changes everything, that makes you feel like you're about to burst. This is the emotional equivalent of winning the lottery, of getting a phone call that changes your life, of discovering something so valuable that your brain can barely process it. He's probably standing there in the field, heart pounding, looking around to see if anyone saw him, trying to keep his face neutral while internally screaming, "This is life-changing money. This is never have to work another day in my life money. This is my kids and grandkids will be set money." And it's just sitting there, in a field, that doesn't belong to him. So what does he do? Does he run to the field owner and say, "Hey, I found treasure in your field. We should split it"? Does he report it to the authorities? Does he leave it there and walk away because it's not his? Nope. He reburies it. He hides it again, covers it up, makes sure nobody else can find it, and then, and this is where it gets interesting, he leaves the field, goes home, and sells everything he has. Everything. His house, his possessions, his tools, his animals, whatever he owns, he liquidates his entire life. And then he goes back and buys the field. Now he legally owns the property, which means anything in the property, including the treasure, now legally belongs to him. Clever? Absolutely. Ethical? Debatable. Let's pause here because this raises some questions. Is this guy basically stealing? Kind of. He's using information the field owner doesn't have to get a better deal. He's not disclosing the treasure. He's buying the field knowing full well it's worth way more than what he's paying. Is this deceptive? Technically, he's not lying, but he's definitely not being fully transparent either. Should we be uncomfortable with this? Maybe. A lot of scholars are. But here's the thing. Jesus isn't telling this parable to teach us about real estate ethics. He's using this story to illustrate something about the kingdom of heaven. And the point isn't the morality of the man's actions. The point is his response to discovering something of incredible value.
Let's focus on what matters in this story. This man sold everything he had. Not some things, not most things, everything. Think about that. Every possession, every security, every comfort, everything familiar, gone. Why? Because he found something worth more than all of it combined. He didn't hesitate. He didn't second guess. He didn't say, well, let me think about it. Let me make a pros and cons list. Let me consult with my financial advisor. He just did it. In his joy, notice that, in his joy, he sold everything. This wasn't a grim, reluctant sacrifice. This wasn't, I guess I have to give up everything. This was, I get to give up everything for something infinitely better. He wasn't losing, he was winning. He was making the trade of a lifetime. Sure, his neighbors probably thought he was crazy. Did you hear? That guy sold his house to buy an empty field. What an idiot. That field isn't worth anything. He must have lost his mind. But he knew. He knew what was buried there. He knew what he was getting. And compared to the treasure, everything else was worthless. So what does this mean? Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is like this. The kingdom of heaven, the reign and rule of God, eternal life, relationship with God, is the treasure. And here's what Jesus is saying. The kingdom is hidden. Not everyone sees it. Not everyone recognizes its value. It's buried, waiting to be discovered. You can walk right past it and not even know it's there. The kingdom is valuable beyond measure, more valuable than anything else you could possibly own or achieve or accumulate. Infinitely valuable, worth more than your entire life combined. The kingdom requires everything. You can't have the treasure and keep all your stuff. You can't hold on to your old life and gain the kingdom. It costs everything, but it's worth everything. The kingdom brings joy. This isn't a burdensome sacrifice. It's not a grim, reluctant, I guess I have to give up my life for God. It's, I get to exchange my ordinary life for something extraordinary. The kingdom is worth any sacrifice. Whatever you give up for it, comfort, wealth, security, reputation, plans, dreams, it's worth it. The trade is so lopsided in your favor that it's actually absurd. From the outside, this guy looks crazy. He sold everything for a field. He's got nothing left except this plot of land. But from his perspective, he just made the smartest decision of his entire life. He traded everything visible for something far more valuable that's hidden. He downgraded in everyone else's eyes, but he upgraded in reality. And that's exactly what following Jesus looks like. To the world, Christians look like they're giving up too much. You mean you won't compromise your integrity for that promotion? You're giving money away instead of building wealth? You're spending your time serving others instead of advancing your career? You're living by these old-fashioned moral standards when you could just do whatever makes you happy. From the outside, it looks like loss, like unnecessary sacrifice, like stupidity even. But from the inside, when you've found the treasure, it's the obvious choice, the only choice, the best choice. You're not losing, you're winning. You're trading temporary, worthless things for eternal, priceless things. Here's what's crucial. Jesus says the man did this in his joy. This is the defining characteristic of the story. Not duty, not obligation, not fear, joy. He was so thrilled about what he found that selling everything felt like a privilege, not a burden. And that's what genuine faith looks like. If following Jesus feels like a grim, joyless sacrifice, if you're white-knuckling your way through obedience, resentfully giving things up, constantly feeling like you're missing out, then you haven't truly seen the treasure yet. Because once you see it, once you really understand what you're gaining, the sacrifice becomes easy. Not because it doesn't cost anything, but because what you're getting is so much better than what you're giving up. Paul says in Philippians 3, I consider everything a loss because of the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord. everything is loss compared to knowing Jesus. Not some things are loss, everything. But it's not a depressing statement. It's a joyful one. Because he found something better.
Notice, the man didn't negotiate. He didn't try to get the field at a discount. He didn't keep a little safety net aside just in case. He went all in, sold everything, bought the field, committed completely. And that's what Jesus calls us to. Not give me most of your life and keep a little for yourself. Not follow me when it's convenient, but maintain your backup plans. Not be a Christian on Sundays, but live like everyone else the rest of the week. All in. Why? Because the kingdom is worth it. Because Jesus is worth it. Because what you're gaining is infinitely more valuable than what you're losing. So here's the question. Have you found the treasure? Not do you know about Jesus, not did you grow up in church, not do you call yourself a Christian. Have you personally discovered the treasure? Have you seen its value? Has it clicked for you that this is the most valuable thing in existence? Because if you have, if you've truly found it, the response is inevitable. You'll sell everything, not reluctantly, joyfully. You'll reorder your priorities. You'll change how you spend your time, your money, your energy. You'll make decisions that look crazy to other people, but make perfect sense to you. You'll stop holding back. Stop hedging your bets. Stop trying to have one foot in the kingdom and one foot in the world. You'll go all in. Not because someone's forcing you, not because you feel guilty, but because you found something so valuable that everything else pales in comparison. What are you holding on to? But maybe you're reading this and thinking, I believe in Jesus, but I'm not sure I'd give up everything. Then ask yourself, why not? What are you holding on to that feels more valuable than the kingdom of heaven? Is it your career, your comfort, your reputation, your plans, your financial security, your independence, your sin? What's the thing you're afraid to let go of? Because here's the hard truth. Whatever you're unwilling to give up for Jesus is your real treasure. That's the thing you value most. That's your God. Jesus said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. If your treasure is your career, your heart is in your career. If your treasure is your comfort, your heart is in your comfort. If your treasure is Jesus, your heart is with him. But here's the beautiful thing. The field is still for sale. The treasure is still available. You can still find it. You can still make the trade. And yes, it will cost you everything, but you'll gain something infinitely better. You'll trade temporary comfort for eternal joy, fleeting pleasures for lasting satisfaction, empty achievements for meaningful purpose, conditional acceptance for unconditional love, anxiety about the future for security in God. A life that ends in death for a life that never ends. Is that a bad trade? Is that loss? Or is that the smartest decision you could possibly make? One more thing. The treasure is hidden, which means not everyone sees it, not everyone gets it, not everyone recognizes its value. You can go to church your whole life and miss it. You can know all the Bible stories and miss it. You can call yourself a Christian and miss it. Because it's not about religious activity. It's about discovering something that changes everything. And when you find it, really find it, you'll know. Because you won't be able to help yourself. You'll joyfully sell everything to obtain it. The question is, have you found it yet? Or are you still walking past the field completely unaware of what's buried there? Jesus told this parable to people who were considering following him, people who were weighing the cost, people who were wondering if it was worth it. And his answer is clear. It's worth everything and more. The man in the parable wasn't crazy. He was the only sane person in the story. Everyone else was walking around, sitting on buried treasure and didn't even know it. Don't be the person who spends their whole life working in the field and never discovers what's buried there. Dig, search, seek, find. And when you find it, really find the treasure, you won't need anyone to convince you to sell everything. You'll do it joyfully, eagerly, immediately. Because you'll finally understand, this is what you've been looking for your whole life.